Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Dehancer. Dehancer is actually a color grading plugin that you can use on both your computer or your iPhone. Specifically, the one I'm using on the computer is Davinci Resolve. If you are on Davinci Resolve, this will be better for you. If not, technically it works the same way. I think we can break down this video into two portions. One of them will be to complete your grade from start to end, and then the second, how to use it as more of an add-on. So yeah, with that being said, let's move on to showing you what I have on the computer. Okay guys, welcome to the com cam. This is where the com is. So we have three clips here. All these three clips are relatively different in lighting. So let's just go through the first way of doing it. These are the three clips. We're just gonna quickly jump over to the color tab. And on our first node, we can search for Dehancer and throw this on. So after you throw it on, as you can see, there are many ways to tweak it. I'm just gonna minimize everything. So for the start, I'm just gonna turn off the emulation and the film grain so the image looks as is. We start with the input tab. It is what you would know as a color conversion tab. If you shoot in log, which is a flat image, you always have to convert it to a Rec 79 or do your own conversion. There are many ways to do this, but Dehancer has its own. The good thing is it has many different options of cameras to choose from, but you can just select the source here. I shot all these footages from my Osmo Action 4. We are going to select choose camera. For vendor, we are going to use DJI, of course, and camera, let's go with the Action 4, and format is D-Log-M. Immediately once you throw this on, you can really see a difference in the image. If I turn it off, it's flat, and if I turn it on again, you can see the difference. At the start, I usually just play with the white balance and exposure. I just want to bring down the exposure slightly like that, and then bring it to the warm side a little bit. I'm not going to touch the rest. At the start, you just want to make sure that the white balance and exposure is correct before you move on. So now that we're done, let's move on to film. And this is where we will choose our film stock by clicking enable here. There are many to choose from. Look at the amount of it. But I like to mainly use the codec ones. I'm not going to go through all of the profiles, but I like the 500T in general, so let's turn that on. And you can tell that the color has changed. This push and pull slider is basically to control the exposure of the film, which slightly changes the color. If I pull it left, it's faded and blue. If I pull it right, it's more contrasty, and I actually like the image like that. That's basically all I'm going to do in this tab. I'm going to move on. There are two things here, film compression and developer. You can move on without using any of these, but usually I like to use the developer to enable that. Push up the contrast slightly, and I will add a bit of gamma correction and color boost. So yeah, I basically never touch the color separation, but these are the three parameters I like to change. Skipping film compression, which allows you to control how much compression it has on the film. In simple terms, it's basically just to push down the highlights. You can just skip this and use expand. So for expand, you can tweak the black levels and the white levels, like making it brighter, darker, but I usually don't touch any of these. And then this is the second most important part, which is the print section. If you want it to look more filmic, you can choose another print here like Fuji or Kodak, and you can tell there's a difference in the color. It looks more filmic. There's also other options, but I usually leave it on linear. You can choose whatever you want and play around the options, but let's go with linear. From this stage, you're basically going to want to add the final contrast and saturation or density, if you call it. So I'm just going to add a bit of contrast here, and I'm going to add density just to bring out the color a bit more. Next, we go to color head. To put it simply, is basically just to control the colors of your film look. If you turn it on, you can see it's bluish or more yellowish, greenish or magenta. If you like a warmish look, yeah, you can push it towards the yellow section and then look at the difference. Oh, actually is quite nice. So yeah, you can also control the shadow tones, mid-tones, highlights, and control another 2 more exposure options here, but I don't touch them. Film grain, I usually don't add film grain except when I'm doing something more stylistic, like I really want it to look more filmic. But in this case, since we are testing it out, let's just add some film grain. When you're adding film grain, you want to actually zoom in and just see how the film grain looks like. You want it to be a bit more obvious, especially if you're uploading to YouTube because of the compression. I like the 35mm and the 16mm grain, but you can just choose whatever you feel is nicer. The next few things are the more stylistic options, I would say. It's just to basically make your footage look a lot more film-like. Especially Halation and Bloom, they tend to work together. So what I like to do is I like to turn on the Halation, look for the brighter corners, and as you can see, there is already halation there. This looks correct. I mean, it's a bit too much because it's spilling into the black, so let's just reduce it until it's just the edge. So whenever you're dealing with something like a film stock emulation thing, you want to try and keep it as subtle as you can, you know, and if someone notices, it's just like wow, but you don't want it to be too much. So that's the max I'll leave it at. I'll zoom out and then I'll turn on Bloom just to soften the image a bit more, and immediately you can see it's super soft and I can just change it lower. So yeah, as you can see now, it already looks a lot more filmic. The before and after, there's a big difference. Oh, the warmish tone actually looks pretty good, man. And after you're done with Bloom, there are some options here which makes it look even more film-like. Personally, I call it the projector look because that's what it kind of looks like. So I'm just going to show you a bad example. If I turn on these 4 options: film damage, film breath, gate weave, and okay, maybe not overscan. If I turn on these 3 options, film damage, film breath, and gate weave, you can immediately tell there's something changing here. There's like scratches on the film, like dust and scratches is what film damage does. Film breath is basically something like a film burn, but if I make something super obvious like 8mm, you can tell the color changing on the film. And then the last one, which is gate weave, if you turn it on and you change it to something even more obvious like 8mm, you can tell the difference. It's kind of like jiggling, vibrating. Can you see? Yeah, so I noticed that the 35mm one is not obvious. It's very, very subtle. You can choose to have it or not. I usually turn it off. Overscan is, you know, this black bar thing that you always see sometimes on videos that look like film and stuff. It's just like a scan look. If I turn it off, you can tell that there's a difference here. The options here, you can control all this exposure, the scale of your image and stuff like that, and then just really tweak it to whatever you want. I like to edit sometimes if I want to make the footage stand out from the other portions of the video, but if not, like I usually turn this off. Vignette, I don't use it, but if you don't know what a vignette is, it basically just darkens your image. As you can tell, it's dark now, and then you can brighten it. So you only use this mostly if you want to just let the user concentrate on the center, but I don't use it either. Monitor, I find this quite useful. You can tell the areas clipping just by looking at the colors. You can tell the highest point is red. You can use it for skin tones. So I think around the 70 mark right here, like pink, should be the correct exposure, and you can see it's correctly exposed. Clipping indication, if you turn it on, you can tell, oh, the black level is too black and it's clipping. So just run up right here to expand, and then you can bring up the black levels to a level that is not clipping if you want. Later you have output, which is you can reduce the entire effect fully to 0, and you can just do somewhere in the middle if you don't want it to be so strong. Next is LUT generator. You can convert this whole look into a LUT that you can drop onto other videos, but if you're already using Dehancer, you probably won't use this, so you can close that. And then options here, you have an option to go even more into a higher quality image. I just leave it as normal because you don't technically have to watch it at the highest image possible, and it can lag sometimes, so yeah. The rest of the things I usually don't touch. So that's basically the features and how I use it. So we are kind of done with the first way of using Dehancer, which is purely as a standalone plugin. As you can tell, it's only one node, and with one node you can control it to this look. You can see if I turn it off, it's the flat image, and if I turn it on, this is what it looks like. And the great thing about Dehancer is you can just copy and paste it. So let's move on to method 2. So if I delete everything. Okay, the second method I like to work with is just to create a few nodes, label them. So the first node, I usually just do levels real quick. Second node, I use a base LUT or color space transform. So this is the same as the input section of Dehancer, where you convert the image from a flat image into a proper Rec 709 image. Third is white balance. Fourth is highlights and shadows. And last, I usually do a color LUT. So there are many ways to do this. This is just a super fast way because I really just want to get it done fast. You basically add a conversion LUT. All cameras have conversion LUTs. You can probably download it from like the manufacturer's website. For my instance, it's DJI. I got this LUT from DJI. Immediately when you plonk it on, it has contrast and saturation. And you just need to do minor tweaks. What I like to do is just change the levels. Pull it up a bit and reduce the highlights slightly. And then with white balance, if it's too cool, you just want to push it to the warm side. With the color LUT, what you can do is you can do it in two ways. One, you can just add on a LUT that is stylized. For example, if I throw on this LUT for my Blackmagic, it's a bit too contrasty. I'll just bring the gain down and then go back to the shadows and tweak it higher and reduce my highlights. And I already have like an image that I'm pretty happy with. Just want it slightly warmer. And yeah, this could be the end of your image. But if you want to add on a stylistic choice, you can add Dehancer, turn off the film emulation. You don't have to change the source because it's already there. What I like to do is at the end, I just want halation. So I'm just going to turn halation on, turn on the mask mode. Just make sure that it's not too obvious, like a subtle thing again. And yeah, I just like to tweak it. You can do your final tweaks, which is if you want to play with the color head, you can turn it on, make it warmer or more bluish, but I like it warmer. And yeah, that's it. And then the last step is to turn your film grain back on, tweak it, and there you have it. Perfect image. Remember, I told you that on a color LUT, you can choose a random LUT. You can also reset this. So we are back to the base form without any color changing LUTs, if I were to call it something. You can throw on Dehancer, and instead of turning off your print, you can just go ahead and choose the print that you like, tweak the exposure. And what I like to do here is I like to turn it off and look at what the image used to be. Right? And then as you can see, we are missing quite a lot of contrast. So we are going to turn on Film Developer and add the contrast back in. No film compression, but I do want to bring up the white point a bit and then the black point down. So now that this is done, you can turn off film grain and have a look again, disabling the node and looking at it. So as you can tell, the color is changed, but I do want some saturation. So back into the color boost again under developer, we're just going to throw in more and finish it off with print, turning on color density and a bit of contrast, and exposure just a little bit. So yeah, it's basically there. You turn on your film grain again and you are back to another image tweaked with changing the color in Dehancer. So there's many ways that you can add this into your workflow. It's just basically how you want to play around with it, how you want to speed up your workflow, and how you want to enhance your images using Dehancer, which I think is like super flexible. If you want to make this even more stylized, you can also go under profile and choose another print profile. And as you can see, it has gone to a full-on film look. Like I mentioned before, you can copy and paste it and it usually works. So yeah, I think that is basically all the functionality and how I use Dehancer in these two methods that I've shown you. I hope it's clear enough, and I think we can now move on to the iOS app. Okay, so we are on the Dehancer app now, as you can see. So basically, when you open Dehancer, you are greeted with this screen of a film roll. You can choose videos and photos, whichever you want to edit. I'm just going to quickly choose one here. This is of Mr. Fu holding ang paos. You can see there are a lot of things here. You can go into presets. It's things that the Dehancer team has made. I find that the presets itself are pretty good, and what I like about editing on the phone most of the time is just to get it done quick. So I just choose one profile here, and then if you go into edit, you are greeted by the same things you have on the computer, except for this crop. So you can choose to crop your image, and then next you can go to source, change the exposure, temperature, tint, and defringe, same as the computer. You have the film stocks. This has already one selected because it was from the presets. You have the same controls here, push pull. You have the developer, which also is from the computer. Basically, whatever things you had on the computer, you have it on the iOS app itself. And honestly, the color looks good, man. Like, I really like that the even grading videos on your phone looks pretty good. So I'm not going to touch any of these, but the cool thing is that if you want to enable or disable it, you can just click the icon and it will disable whatever you turn off and on. So next we have compression, we have expand, we have print, color head, film grain, halation, bloom, vignette, film damage, overscan, film breadth, and gate width. For example, I don't like the overscan here, so I'm just going to turn it off. I'm also going to turn off film breadth and gate width and film damage. So all the things that I didn't want on the computer, I will leave it off. And yeah, that's basically how you can use the iOS app and all the functionalities it has. So you can only export it in 180p or 720p, and I usually just export it as at the first number that comes out. Then if you want to select a different image, the left button here allows you to pick an image that you want to pick. So yeah, that's basically the app. Now that we are done, I think we can move on to the last portion of the video, which is to talk about my thoughts of the software. So first up, one thing to note is that I'm not paid by Dehancer for this review. They just gave me a subscription so I can use their app and test it out. In general, I think that Dehancer is a really simplified version of a color grading platform. Like I mentioned before, if you came from editing photos on Lightroom or videos on Premiere Pro, After Effects, you would know that everything is done by sliders, and Davinci Resolve, everything works with color wheels and stuff like that. It works with nodes. So if you are using Dehancer for Davinci, it definitely helps to simplify the process. Everything can be done in one node with the slider functions. Honestly, I have no complaints about the product. I find it very useful and simple. There is a learning curve to getting it to the colors that you want. And of course, like try and error with the different film stocks, like what you like and stuff like that. But there are some things that I wish that the plugin on Davinci Resolve had. For example, for halation, bloom, and film grain, I do wish there was an advanced option, ticking box or something like that you can click, and it opens up like extra ways that you can tweak the halation, bloom, and stuff like that. So I have an option of going real simplified with the halation, bloom, and film grain, and I also have another option to go super advanced if I wanted to. I mean, I know that Dehancer was made to simplify the whole process, but I do wish there was an option of just going a little bit further. Another thing would be the sharpening. I wish there was a sharpening feature in the app itself, so that I don't have to add a node before the whole process and just add sharpening to the image. And then, yeah, I think the last thing would be to have an extra set of exposure controls like shadows, highlights, midtones, and stuff like that. Yeah, I think those are the only few things that I would like the app to have. For the iOS app, I personally feel that the app is great. It has all the functionalities that you have from the computer squashed into your iPhone, and you can get the film look on the iPhone. The film presets are great. Like, you don't have to start from scratch all the time. You can just choose one from the list and then go in and tweak stuff that you don't like. The emulation results are also quite similar to the computer, and I would say so far one of the best, especially for videos. Things that I wish that the app would change is, one, firstly, I think the starting screen and the overall UI is still not quite there. When I first opened the app, I expected it to be super simplified, even more simple than what the computer has. There's a lot of tabs, there's a lot of buttons here and there, and you have to kind of figure out like how to navigate around the app for a while at the start. It's not like a super big thing, but I do wish the app had a better browsing starting screen and a better way of moving through photos in the app. I also wish that it was even more simplified. I also do wish that they had the exposure controls, because most of the time if I want to control shadows, midtones, and stuff, I find myself exporting it as a film look and then editing that exported video with the iOS editing tools. So yeah, if you have made it here so far, congratulations. There was a lot of talking. I think the last part now is to talk about pricing. The Dehancer Pro starts off at $149 USD for 3 months, $199 USD for 6 months, $299 for a year, and $499 for a lifetime license. It's pretty steep. However, there is another option for Dehancer Lite, which has lesser functionality and features, but it comes in at $199 for a lifetime license. I think for most people this would be enough. For me personally, if I had bought the Lite version, I would just use the Davinci Resolve Halation as a backup, since that's the only thing that I would want in my workflow that I'm missing. A good gauge is to figure out whether this really helps you to improve your workflow, and the only way to know that is to really try out the product. If you're planning on actually buying it, feel free to use the link below. I left my affiliate link with them. You can use the link to get a 10% discount on all the subscriptions except for the iOS app. For the iOS app, the pricing is the yearly subscription comes in at $150 and a 1 month subscription comes in at $9.99. Now, I'm not saying that it's a fully drag and drop kind of plugin, but it does give you a good starting point almost immediately. Compared to some LUTs on some footages, the gamma and stuff is wrong. You find yourself like way far off from what the footage is supposed to look like from the LUT preview. So in general, if you love the film look and like how film stocks and film styles look like, this is definitely a good way to bring you into it. Other than that, thank you for watching as usual, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.